Well, I still haven't been able to figure out that transition between those two yet. Good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at. My name is Brad Bethune. I've spent, and welcome to Tech and Cards, very first episode. So there is going to be some hiccups. There are going to be some glitches, and that's okay. We're just going to go through. This show's basically technology and cards, two of my passions. I wanted to put them together and just have a talk and learn and teach, and we'll just follow this journey together. I mean, I've spent over 15 years in the IT industry. I've worked for Hewlett Packard, McAfee, NEC, and then in 2019, I got back into sports cards. I got back into the hobby under the alias of, and many of you know me as Texas Card Dude. Uh, Live on Hobby Hotline Tuesdays and Saturdays, and actually live this Tuesday coming up with Rich Klein and Bo Thompson, and we're going to talk about card shows. But I wanted to again do a show where two of my passions, which was technology and sports cards, kind of mesh. Um, Typically in the show, we're going to do about 10 to 15 minutes on sports cards, and then maybe 10 to 20 minutes, depending on the conversation, on technology and how they mesh. So I, I thought we'd see how this went, and off we go. I've got a very, very special, very interesting friend of mine for a while, a gentleman that is infamous and infamously known in the hobby, and it is Mr. Michael Seguinot, aka ZiggyNO, aka Ziggy Breaks. What's going on, sir?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. See, I use ZiggyNO because that last name is so hard for people to pronounce. Seguinot, ZiggyNO. It's just easy. So I
Well,
appreciate it, man.
as long as they don't call you some of the other names, I guess
Well,
you're
they
all right.
do. They do. They call me ZiggyNO apparently to my face. Everything else is when I can't hear it. But
I
it's
hear
great to
you.
be here, and I have to say, man, I'm excited about this because I have to tell you, I think a lot of guys who are into sports cards, and I should say guys and gals who are into sports cards, seem to have a geeky side, right? I don't know if maybe there's a crossover for some reason, but it seems like we're the same ones that are playing with computers. We're also playing with sports cards, or maybe it's the numbers. I don't know what it is. So I think there's gonna be a lot of people who can relate to these topics and these conversations. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And being guest number one on episode one, I
Yep.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Uh, when actually I thought about doing this, I was excited about doing this particular show because, you know, NFTs, technology, sports cards, it kind of like leads off right off the bat. So, um, but before that, we're gonna do a little what's up. We're gonna do a little what's up, everybody. So, Michael, what's up with your hobby? What's up with you?
Well, in sports cards, it's funny. I have moved in the last few years very much. I realize I'm a collector more than the investor. So I've sold off a lot of stuff that I was playing with because it wasn't passionate to me, and I've focused on what I like and what I enjoy. And one thing I'm looking forward to right now is Prism football cards hit the market. Now, tomorrow is actually, I think it's the first off the line Dutch auction, which is ridiculously high. I will not be involved in that, but at least we'll set kind of the bar. You'll see how bad prices will be from there, and we'll kind of go from there. I myself am targeting the retail. I go back to I have sons, and we used to go out and hit the WalMarts and Targets years ago, specifically looking for Prism football and Prism basketball. It's much harder today than it was before, but we'll be doing that again as soon as the I hear it's out. I'll be looking for Prism blaster boxes in the wild.
Yeah, I didn't talk about blaster boxes. I've yet to find Bowman in the
Yeah,
wild at all. Any Bowman baseball in the. I mean, you can get it on Topps website. You can get it on Target. Last I looked, not under red card. You can get it at Walmart every once in a while online, but physically online in stores, I I can't find any. I can't find any.
yeah. It's
And
funny. I remember when I got into the hobby, a friend of mine told me many years ago, and this is something I believe is still true. He said, when you're at the retail, the only thing you should ever buy in a retail store is Bowman baseball and Prism basketball or football. Now,
mhm.
that used to be pretty easy to do because there really was only Bowman baseball. Now, we'll warn you, Bowman is now doing basketball and football. So you'll see college cards out there, and I think you're going to see those in retail. I would stay away from that personally. I'd stay focused on Bowman baseball only. And then in Prism, you got Prism baseball, you got Prism, wrestling, you got so many Prism products, Prism NASCAR. I myself still only focus on Prism football and Prism basketball, but there's just so many different brands out there. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm afraid of not only just the retail, because I expect the blaster to be as high as like $39.99. I also just, it's going to be absolutely ridiculous what the singles are going to go for, even though it's going to be probably $15.99. I mean, who knows what everything's going to be. The prices could be just absolutely astronomical. And then, for me, I was at the Dallas Card Show last weekend with all the content creators and had an absolute blast digging through boxes and digging through, just trying to find some gold, gold, not just, I was in for a year selling, moved back in the IT world and fell in love back with the hobby again. I was looking for serial numbered relics with just really, really killer patch cards that just spoke to me. And I didn't care about the player. If the player was great, that was awesome. If the player wasn't that great, I didn't care. I just wanted to find some really cool patches that were serial numbered. So that was probably one of my coolest. And then I picked up some 1934 I forgot what they were called. Herman told me last night, and he's going to beat me whenever but they're old 1934 cards out of a vending machine. And I got Judy Garland for my wife, and then myself, I got Roy Rogers. So completely different from modern. And I when I saw them, I absolutely got a good deal on them too. Yep. 2 for $15, if I remember right. So
that's interesting. There's so much of that stuff's that pop culture stuff that's out there, back then and even now being made.
Yeah, I saw, and I came so close to pulling the trigger. I saw Battlestar Galactica. Remember the old show Battlestar Galactica?
Yes.
I saw those. The original one. I saw those cards, and I'm not going. I'll throw a tip out there. Why not? Because we're doing What's Up. They're going to remake the Battlestar Galactica show again. So if you were going to, they were talking about a movie. They were talking about they're throwing the idea around again.
They did that already. Did you see the Sci-Fi Channel did that, right?
I didn't. I wasn't. I watched like the first season, and then I kind of was like, but they're talking about going back to the old stuff.
Okay, I hate to go off topic here, but let me just be honest. The remake that Sci-Fi Network did was, in my opinion, one of the best sci-fi series ever.
Really?
It's phenomenal. It is so well done because here's why. It's actually, I think, 5 seasons, and they end it. There's a conclusion, and it's no, I guess they could do it as a sequel, but they do such a beautiful job ending it that you're like, that was well done. And it takes some time. I remember first season, and to me too, like I watched the other one as a kid, right? But in my opinion, the one as a kid never seemed to give me the answers that I wanted. You had the Cylons and you had the people, and you never got the answers. This one gives you the answers. You get, why the attack, where they are, the whole progress. It's really worth it. I highly recommend it, man. I highly recommend it. Anybody out there watching, I'd love your comments and thoughts. Battlestar, the most recent one on Sci-Fi, which I think was probably 15 years ago, maybe, I don't know, 20 years ago, was awesome. Awesome.
Well, yeah, I tried it.
Starbuck is a beautiful woman in the new one, which is also amazing because in Starbuck back when we were a kid.
That's right? It. That's why it is. Starbuck is a woman. That's what threw me completely off.
I love her. Love her. You got a daughter. You want your Starbuck dog. Just check it out. Brett, check it out. I actually think I have it on DVD if you want a DVD. I don't know if anybody uses those anymore, but
I'm waiting for it to come out. Let's have Netflix bring it out.
Well, I've even got it. I even have Battlestar on iPad or whatever, because I bought it back then because I loved it that much. It was that good.
Wow,
it really is.
Well, hey, the Cylons were pretty cool, and I like that the Cylon Raiders were actually robots. There wasn't anybody in. I mean, that was a cool concept. It had some cool concepts.
We could talk forever on sci-fi series. We could do a different Netflix or a different show. We should talk more about this one later on. Off topic, we'll talk about Battlestar. It is the perfect series because It gives you why it started and it gives you why it ends. It's a perfect circle.
So, speaking of perfect circles
Yep.
and shows and stuff you can't touch besides the merchandise, the topic tonight is what are non-fungible tokens, and this is kind of a hot button in the card world, but because it's cards and technology, I wanted to kind of go a little bit beyond the technology, or a little bit beyond the card aspect, and
Mm-hmm.
talk about the technology behind it. But first, let's level set for those who, they hear NFTs or non fungible tokens. They're not 100% sure what it is. I mean, for me, and I'll get a more accurate definition for you. It's digital asset. It is something that is a something that you can't touch, but you own. So that's the way I see it in the very, very basic form. I'll let you go and give
Sure.
the technical.
Sure. So the way I think of it, okay, right now in the digital world, right? Anything that you create, you might own it, but it can also be copied, right? If you make a video, you make a picture, it can all be copied. And we've known that for years, right? That's one of the concerns was IP, intellectual property. Even code can be copied. What a non-fungible token does is it takes a digital asset, anything. It could take code, it can take an image, it could take an audio file, and it basically is tokenizing that in the sense it's wrapping that and then taking the wrapper and saying who the owner is of it. It's labeling it or enriching that with data. And then it's going to, here's the most important part, because it can do all that privately, but then it's going to write that to a ledger on a blockchain. And that is the aha moment, because you and I could create a document, a digital document. And I could say, this is mine. You could say, it's yours. Sure, it's yours, Mike. And then something happens. Who can prove that? But when I publish that to a digital ledger, a blockchain, a distributed ledger, so that now not just you and I know it, but everybody else can say, yep, according to this asset, which is wrapped in this token, has this identifying number and this identifying information about it. This is Ziggy's. And then if I sell it or trade it or transfer it to you, it's going to retain on that ledger the record. Ziggy had it, then he passed it to Brad. Brad had it, then he passed it to this person. And when the passing takes place, what was the transaction? He received this much, token. He received this other NFT. What exchange was made? So the critical thing to think about is this is very important for the digital world as we move forward, right? Because up until now, we've not been able to protect intellectual assets in the digital world. And that is why the biggest thing that really caught the attention of the NFTs, two things happened in the last 2 years. One was the big auction of the NFT that sold, I forget, some auction house for like $60 million. Okay. That got a lot of attention. Now there's a lot of detail on what that was. Okay. But that got attention. The other thing that happened was in 2020, we had the NBA Top Shot program that came out, which was a digital clip of an NBA star doing an activity, shooting a basket, rebounding, assist, whatever it might be, that was tokenized and put on a blockchain. And during the sports card boom of 2020, those two things kind of coincided and took off. And what's really interesting, as I kind of lecture here a little bit, is the blockchain idea has been around for a while, but it wasn't until 2020 that it took off. Okay, and,
Yeah.
I'll even say this, I don't even know why. I think it was kind of the perfect storm that made the NFT take off. In fact, if you Google NFT, you might catch the skit from Saturday Night Live on what is an NFT,
Yep.
which is another thing that was very popular in 2020. But those two incidents, I think, were really what kind of put NFTs into pop culture, was that the public auction of a piece of artwork. And then the second thing was Top Shot, because Top Shot was not just, it was on ESPN, but it also was in all the sports card groups talked about it. All the crypto groups were talking about it. It really resonated on such a large audience. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So then it kind of died down, and everybody goes, okay, so what? Why is an NFT so cool, or why isn't it? Who cares? I guess was
Well, here's a few things. Here's a few things that I think are important, because I was a big critic of NFTs in 2019, 2020. I was one of the people like, well, who cares? What is this thing? Then I got very involved in it in 2020. I got involved in Top Shot, and then I followed the other projects. The other project that came along in 2020 was Panini. And Panini then went ahead and launched what it really was. They launched their NFT packs because Panini had a blockchain product around for probably a year or two, maybe 2019, maybe 2018. They had a blockchain, but Panini packs came in. And again, I want to point that was another thing that I think added this was Top Shot. Really, what they really were taking advantage of was the gambling aspect of you can open a pack and maybe get a rare NFT. Okay, because the other option was you go to an auction house and you spend a lot of money on an NFT, speculating it's going to have value. Well, how many people are going to do that? I'm not going to go, buy an NFT in an auction. But if you tell me I can open a pack for $5 and I might get an NFT in there worth $1,000, hey, I'll take a shot. Yeah. And that is what also sprung that was you had this gambling, right, crossover you have in sports cards, and then you have the ability of this digital asset. Now, again, where the crossover is, if you look at the sports card world, is that the fact that what makes a sports card valuable? Part of that is the scarcity or rarity of the item, right? We believe there's not many of them around. It's got a low population. It's got a serial number, whatever that might be. And that is why I think we believe an early adopting market would be collectors for NFTs. Now, applicability and use, I actually don't think is going to last very long in the crossover. And what I mean by that is there's only so many people out there who really want to collect NFTs as collections. Most of them want some utility out of it. You know what I mean? Now, it's just like with sports cards. There's a lot of people who collect sports cards and make sets and stick them in their closet, and they don't want to do anything else with them. But there's others that collect them. They want to grade them, show them off, sell them. They want utility out of the card, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna see, I think a lot of things evolving in the next few years. But what's really cool about NFTs, at the minimum, right? I hope it's made people aware of the fact that this is the groundbreaking ability to make an asset something I can transfer ownership and can have some value in it because there's this public record. I should also state something. There are many blockchains. Not all blockchains are the same, and not all blockchains are public. And this is another thing. When I talked about, hey, you and I are going to put this asset together, and we're going to agree upon and publish it. Well, for example, the NFT like Top Shot is on the Flow blockchain. It's only in the Flow world. It's a private blockchain. Panini's is on their blockchain. I think it's Sawtooth is the back end, but again, it's the Panini blockchain. Those are private blockchains. Why do I say that? Well, because let's fast forward 20 years from now. Those assets will be available if the infrastructure that manages those servers is still being maintained.
Yep.
It's not that it's sitting in the internet. Now, conversely, if I look at Bitcoin or Ethereum networks, those things are relying more on the internet, more of a public network. So those assets have a longer, I won't say longer life, or a higher likelihood of surviving. Now, let me just add to this too. Every one of the items that are created with a standard, an ERC standard, so they could be ported to a public blockchain. And for summary, what that means is Panini, their private blockchain today, I like Panini's Prism NFTs because I can collect them there. In the future, they theoretically could be ported to a public blockchain that I could own forever. But right now, they're dependent on Panini. Panini shuts down their doors, turns off their servers. They don't pay their, web service bill. I lose my assets. Yeah. And that's the case with most of the digital assets out there. Topps, here's another good one. Topps, by the way, has a death clause on their NFTs. If you die, your NFTs are forfeited to Topps. That blows my mind.
Then you really lose your asset.
Yes. Yes. I can't believe they even have that. I'll be honest. I really can't believe they have that. Like, first of all, who does that? Like, I guess if I were to die, someone would check the records of when I died on my death certificate, and then when my assets were sold on my blockchain, and be like, no, he couldn't have sold those because he was dead. Those should be ours. I don't know. That just surprises me. But it's something to think about: the ownership, the assets, what you can really do with it.
Let's talk about what you can do with it. I mean, there's the standard artwork. Okay, there's the standard artwork. Then you got, what typically the two, and then you got the sports cards and all that involved. And then what I did is I did a basic. I went to Google and I'm thinking, okay, what are the different ways that you could use NFTs? And what I found was the common thread of blockchain. But think about the authenticity of medicine. And then for narcotics, being able to track where narcotics are sold. And then, so specifically if drugs or bottles or whatever, if bottles are caught on the street, then with an NFT, you've got a blockchain of where that comes from. So there's that possibility.
Let me stop you. So I kind of follow that. I'll give you the closest one I've seen right now that's being considered in government use, because you have to understand the fear I have there is this blockchain data is in a public ledger or in a distributed ledger. Mm-hmm. Would I want to have ownership of drugs in a distributed ledger? I don't know. But let me tell you what I would do. Passport information, hiring information, my education, where I've gone
down the path
could all be stored in a blockchain. So, for example, now when I travel, I just identify myself with a biometric or information that I know, knowledge that I have. This is my birth certificate, whatever. And then once I'm authenticated, the blockchain verifies. Here's his medical records that you might need to share with one instance, or here's your
academic
passport, so forth.
Yeah, academic records. Though, I mean, I'll circle it back because Mark Cuban's doing this, ticketing, sports tickets. Not only is he doing, he's doing, NFTs. Not only you're buying the tickets, but you're getting an NFT along with that particular ticket. So then you combine Top Shot, and you got it's in trial run right now, but a particular instance in a game you get an NFT to, and at that point you could mark it to the seat and the row and the date. So there's your serial number right there.
Yeah. Well, another thing to look at, here's another project I've been playing with in the Funko world, or in my NFT Funko world. You can get an NFT that you can redeem for a physical Funko Pop.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I think this is key, because what you're going to see in inventory management. Let's say I'm a company and I make a Gazoo, okay, and I have 500 Gazoos, and Gazoos are really cool, and everybody wants a Gazoo, right? So I could sell Gazoos online immediately in little NFTs. There's only 500 Gazoos. Each Gazoo has a number on it. I know who owns the Gazoo. When you want your Gazoo set up and redeemed, you go ahead and redeem it, and you send it to me, and my team comes out and sets up your Gazoo. But if you want to hold your Gazoo and maybe resell it on the aftermarket because only 500, you could do that. You could do it over and over and over, right? And you could store Gazoo. And the cool thing about the Gazoo is every time you sell it, I get a little piece of that action, and I know what's happening to it, right? So when you look at in the NFT world with the Funko Pops, Funko, every time that NFT that gets redeemed, gets sold, they're getting a little piece of it. So imagine if you could sell a toy 5 times as a manufacturer. You sell it once to the mom then maybe resells it to somebody else. So it gets passed around, and every time it gets passed around, the manufacturer, the creator, gets a little piece. So I think the redemption is going to be the future. Like, for example, in sports cards, instead of giving me a physical redemption card, why not give me an NFT that I could then trade to somebody else to get another NFT? I could sell it, right? I could wait to redeem it at the National, or I could redeem it when I'm at my local card store or whatever. So I think those are going to be really, really good uses of redemptions of an NFT.
Let's talk about it from a store or an owner or a manufacturing standpoint. Each time that's sold, you get a new name, a new email, a new contact record. So it is an excellent way for building your database of who likes your products. So then you could use that for all sorts of marketing and promotion products once you build that database. And it's an active, ready-made database that you know of somebody that's at least somewhat interested in your product.
So again, the cool thing with blockchain is you can make some of that information anonymous or not.
Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless. The possibilities are endless. So,
and I think it's like I said. I think what's interesting is, do I recommend NFTs to replace sports cards? No. If you like to collect sports cards, you're going to collect sports cards. I like to collect NFTs. Like, here's something interesting. The NFTs, the Panini drops, they come out before the physical cards. So I can see all cool images, the inserts that are going to be out in the Prism football, because they're already out in the Prism NFT packs.
Yeah.
So I like that. And for me, too, I like to collect sets, but I found it's easier to collect an NFT set than it is to physically collect all the base cards of a physical set.
Oh, so here's something. You go build your NFT set by trading, and then you take that entire book NFT book and you send it to Panini, uh, Fanatics, whoever, and they send you the entire set.
They could. Well, here's one thing they've talked about, and this will be interesting to see. Is that right now, if you look at Top Shot, they have these utilities, which basically, if you are a member and you have all the different sets and all the different collections, you get access to certain merchandise. You get access to certain shows or games or in drawings. Right. The same thing can happen about Panini. Panini can do the same thing. You're right. You have different sets of Panini collections. Well, we're going to give you access to a signing of, a player they might have on their contract or whatever. Or we're going to give you tickets to a game because they have tickets to a game. And I think that's going to be kind of the cool experience. So, again, let's rewind. When Fanatics is controlling the whole entire world of sports, they might be able to sell off or raffle off an NFT that gives you access to all of the, NBA All-Star games for the next 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Or, the Super Bowl. You get an NFT to the next 3 Super Bowls. And then you might go to this one and you sell the next 2 years to your friends. And he sells the last year to another friend, right? So there's so many cool ideas that they can tie into this.
Or you could buy Brady's last football touchdown, maybe that he – okay, so that –
You just have to wait till when that happens.
So let's talk about – this is something that I'm interested in and I don't know. So this is both a learning experience and something that I hope a lot of y'all want to know about. And how are NFTs made? I have zero clue with this, so this is going to be a pure learning, and I'm very excited to learn about this.
Sure. Well, again, there's not a lot of magic in this. When you're making an NFT, you're taking any digital asset, and then you're tokenizing it, and then publishing it to a blockchain. So, for example, you can go out on a website called atomichub.io. Let me just make sure it's wax actually .atomichub.io, or you put in atomichub.io and it'll take you over there. And once you log into that, you have to create a wax account. You can actually take anything that you have, any JPEG, any image, and then you can turn it into an NFT. Now, when they let you do that, you're putting in what's called it's not whitelisted. It's an NFT. It's not been verified, so it's not going to be public to sell in the marketplace. But you can create an NFT yourself. And many of the blockchains allow you to do this. OpenSea is another one that will allow you to take anything you want to. You can take a music file if you'd like, a video clip, and I think they have limits on how much you can upload. And then you're going to tokenize that, and again you're going to wrap it and then publish it on the blockchain. Depending on what it is, I think OpenSea does have a fee to publish it on the blockchain. That's often referred to as a gas fee. That can be a variable fee, and I'll be honest, that can vary a lot, from pennies to dollars to hundreds of dollars, just for that gas fee on Ethereum. In Wax, it's free. I do recommend, if you are interested in learning about NFTs, a very, very safe, and I won't say safe, but an easy, low-cost way is the Wax blockchain, because it's very user-friendly. And it's interesting, Top started on Wax. It was their first blockchain, and then they kind of abandoned it and have gone on somewhere else. But you have Garbage Pail Kids on the Wax blockchain. You've got the Funko Pops on the Wax blockchain. It's a lot of great, brands and stuff like that. And Wax is a very, very friendly, easy to use, low transaction, low fee, and you can create your own NFTs there.
So, Wax, I now expect a residual for for sponsorship. But so what you're saying, anything, you and I talked about this previously. So and we'll talk about this in a real world business application for anybody who's wanting to know. If I took my business card and put it in Wax and then created a digital NFT, how would that work? How would I use that or anything like that?
Well, that's a great question. See, that's the thing. So for the best way I could think of this, and I go back to sports cards. Let's say I want to run a business and I want to give members. Let me take a step back from that. Think airlines. You have a VIP mileage number, right? The more you fly, the higher privilege you get to board first. Think of the same thing in a store. If I'm running a sports card store, maybe I have a point system. The more money you spend with me, you get more access to better discounts, access to products first. You get to come in the store in off hours. Well, in order to do that, I would issue you an NFT, because that NFT then becomes your digital VIP-like badge. With that digital VIP badge, you can get into the breaks early, right? And here's what's cool about that. I, as the store owner, I'm tracking your activity, encouraging you to use it. You're getting value out of it. Well, let's say you decide to move out of the area. You're not going to be at the local card store anymore. You could sell the NFT and sell that value to the next person who comes in and collects. Right?
Yes.
So they would have the discounted value. They'd be able to get access to the store. Now, whether they use it or not, it's up to them. So I think another way for me to think about, and that's what I was trying to do early on, was I'd like to pull together the community and create a community where we could give memberships to people to get access to something in the community, right? But you have to have a carrot, a reward that is what's the utility of having the NFT, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's
And
fantastic.
again, like I said, I think memberships will be the way they'll start in the beginning, and think of it like this: you go to the grocery store and they
Yeah.
ask for your phone number, right, to get the discount. It could be an NFT in the future, right?
Yeah.
It could really be an NFT that's on a public blockchain that has my shopping profile. And then in that way, that shopping profile goes with me from one grocery store to the other grocery store without having me, without me being, in 15 different individual ones. It's just a kind of a way to go. Another last kind of thing to think about, if you follow video games, right? If you're in the video game world, a lot of video games surprisingly have a lot of digital value, where people spend a lot of money for access to, say, a skin in Fortnite or a sword in a video. I can't remember these games, but World of Warcraft, a special weapon. They'll buy people's accounts, right? Well, now with NFTs, look for that in the future. In fact, when NFTs will really take off is as soon as EA Sports turns your Madden football game into an NFT, so that when you make a player, he's an NFT that you take with you to the next game and the next game and the next game. That is bam. That's the big moment. When you're playing Call of Duty and you've got some gun that you played with for 4 different games of Call of Duty, that's an NFT you can take with you to Call of Duty and you can take with you across another game. That is when this is really going to go boom.
Yeah. Well, let's do this, Michael. How do people reach you if they want to just have a conversation,
Sure.
or if they want to learn more, or anything like that? How would they reach you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely professionally on LinkedIn as Michael Seguinot. You can find me there. On social media, you can find me as ZiggyNO. You can Google ZiggyNO. You'll find me on YouTube. You'll find me on Twitter, Instagram, pretty much on all those platforms. And I'm very open and accessible, whether it's talking, cybersecurity and IT, or talking, NFTs and sports cards. I love talking about all those different topics.
Most definitely. Hey, we went 2 minutes over. Was going to try to stay in 30 minutes, but when you get to talking and you start talking about Battlestar Galactica and all the other starts of technology, then things happen. So
Absolutely, man.
Hey, Mike, I really appreciate you being the first guest. I hope everybody really enjoyed the conversation. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, comments down below on different ways you think that an NFT can be used, or if you want to have more questions. Brad Bethune, Integris, brad.bethune@integrisit.com. I'll put all of the notes down in there. So if you wanted to go to wax.com, or how you wanted to create or anything like that, and then I'll put Michael's link in there so you can reach out to him as well. But hopefully you had fun with this first episode, and it'll be more fun to come, and we'll just have a great time. I really appreciate you watching. I really appreciate you joining. Subscribe, and y'all have a great one.